What is going on, Pokemon fans? Welcome back to Polar Wrath. My name is JD, and today we're doing a very special video. We are doing a breakdown of my first ever team in Emerald. We've done a couple videos like this already. We did my first ever team in Pokemon Blue, which is also the first game I've ever owned. Again, it's the first team I had, not the best team. Sometimes my first team was pretty good, and Pokemon Blue's team was pretty solid. I could play through today and obliterate the game. And then my second video like this was Pokemon Silver. I didn't have Crystal as a kid, I had Silver. So I broke down my first ever team of Pokemon Silver. Again, not my best, not the best team. You can definitely find a much better team than what I had in Silver, trust me on that. And then today what we're going to do is going to break down the first ever team of Pokemon Emerald. Now, a couple things about Pokemon Emerald. So my favorite Pokemon game of all time is Pokemon Blue. Obviously, you see that on the channel all the time, so I play a lot of it. However, I think Emerald is the best Pokemon game. So there's a difference between my favorite and the best. Pokemon Blue Generation 1, it has a lot of quirks. It has a lot of errors. It has a lot of mistakes. It's a glorious masterpiece of imperfections. One thing I've always said about it. It's a great game, but there's a lot of things that are wrong with it that don't really bother me that much because I grew up with it. But there's a lot of people that are purists that play modern games that don't have as many flaws or errors, and they look down on it and stick their nose up on it at the same time. This is how people view Generation 1, Pokemon Blue, Red, and even Yellow. Emerald, to me, I think is the perfect combination of what I value in a Pokemon game. I like playing through, I like fighting, I like collecting Pokemon, I like, taking on battles and having strategies. I do not like a lot of the talking. I do not like a lot. That's why from Generation 4 and on, there's a lot of talking, there's a lot of jibber jabber, and that's not something that I value. I want to just play the game. If I want to read up on it, I will, but I think it needs to be a choice. And I feel like Emerald was the last game that had a good enough balance where you're playing through and you have enough lore and stuff that you can read, but also you're not reading so much that it feels like you're playing a book instead of playing a video game. And I think Emerald was perfect. The graphics were perfect. The AI, to me, seemed very well done. The game was pretty well balanced for the most part. A lot of good things about Emerald. I had nothing bad to say about Emerald. It's where I think Pokemon legitimately peaked. And after that, they got too much into the talking, got too much into a lot of things. Is it perfect? No, nothing is perfect. But it is one of the best games I've ever played, period. And it's the best Pokemon game I've ever played. Now, we're going to dive a little bit into some things. So what I want to go over first is there are some very unique Pokemon in Generation 3 that they've added. So you can make a lot of very dynamic teams. So I'm just going to go over some that I didn't use in my first playthrough, but I want to give some shout outs to. So first off, Torkoal. Torkoal isn't exactly a great Pokemon when we look at its stats. It does not evolve. So you're getting into single stage Pokemon. However, it's solid across the board. Body Slam, a really high, really good fire moves. It's a solid Pokemon, and it's one I've used in a couple playthroughs when I used a certain starter. That wasn't the one that I used the first time I played through. But he is a solid Pokemon. Not a great Pokemon, like I said, but solid. Another Pokemon is the regional bird, and that is Swellow. Swellow is a solid Pokemon. You get it at Talion, I think is what it's called. Good Pokemon. Not a great Pokemon, but a good Pokemon. And then there's some other Pokemon. Now, here's something I'm going to add as well. So here's Shiftry. He's not a GIF. And this was actually something I found very difficult to do. I was looking for GIFs of Pokemon that were in Generation 3. And there's not a lot. There's not a lot of good ones out there. Not like I can find for Red, Blue, and Yellow, and Crystal, and things like that. Generation 1 and 2. I found a lot of them. I didn't find a lot for this one. So this was the best GIF I could find for Shiftry. Look how bad he scales up. He doesn't look good when you scale him up, but that's Shiftry. Shiftry's a grass dark Pokemon. You actually get him pretty early. You get him as a what's the base form? Seedot, and you evolve him. And with a grass, and you can evolve him. You can get that pretty early. Azumarill is a water type you can get. Evolves from Meryl pretty early in the game. You can get him. Sableye is not a great Pokemon, but it's a very unique Pokemon. It is a Ghost Dark type. I don't think it has really a weakness. I think it's a completely immune to psychic moves. It's a really unique Pokemon. Not, like I said, not a great Pokemon. Doesn't have great stats, but it's very unique. Camerupt, now this is another example of a GIF I couldn't find. Look at the bad. Look how bad this scales up whenever you pull it up. Look how bad that is. I just don't know why they had such problems creating these GIFs in Generation 3, but they did. I had a hard time finding some good ones. And then Ultralia, and there's a bunch of Pokemon. There's so many good options with this game, and that's why I truly like this game. There's a lot of great options. You can get Meryl on the first route. You can get Seedot pretty much before the first gym. Swallow you can get as well, and there's so many good Pokemon. But these are some Pokemon I wanted to give a shout out to because they're part of a lot of people's teams that you can get. and they're very useful. And I'm sure there's tons I miss. There's some that are like generation 1 or 2. Now here's a rule that I've always had, and I mentioned this in my previous 2 videos that were like this. Whenever I play through a game, I pick Pokemon that are new to this generation. I don't pick Pokemon that were in like if I'm playing Generation 3, I don't pick Generation 2 Pokemon. Unless there's like a variant. Like if I'm playing through Generation 2 and I decide I want to go with Politoed instead of Poliwrath, that would be one I would make an exception for because it's a variation that was available in that generation. So to kick off my first ever team in Emerald, my first Pokemon was Torchic / Combustion / Blaziken. Blaziken is a fire fighting type, the first fire fighting type Pokemon ever made. It's one of a slew of starters that were fire fighting type for a long time, and Blaziken was the first one. No pun intended, he blazed the trail for fire fighting types. Very solid, he's a very good Pokemon. He's arguably the best starter in Generation 3. Some people would say, I think we can all agree Sceptile is definitely not the best starter in Generation 3. However, a lot of people will argue that Swampert, and I'm not going to argue too much against that. There's definitely a case to be made for Swampert. It's a very good Pokemon. However, I think Blaziken is the best to me because the combination of the fire fighting type, you can get bulk up after the second gym, and with that, you can basically like set up and steamroll a lot of teams. So it gives you a lot of ways, a lot of flexibility. Like I said, you could probably argue Swampert. Swampert typing is like amazing, and you don't deal with a lot of grass type Pokemon, so you're able to avoid basically your one weakness. But I like Blaziken. It was my favorite Pokemon for a while until I circled back and rekindled my love, I should say, for Poliwhirl and Poliwrath. That's my starter. I could play through a Swampert. Sceptile was garbage to play through. I eventually will do Gen 3 content, and I can't wait to play through all these starters to kind of showcase a little bit more of this. Now, I'm showing you an order of how I got things. I do want to show you this. I didn't keep this Pokemon, but I do want to share a little story. My first ever encounter with a Poochyena was a shiny Poochyena. I was just trying to level up, and I came across this, and I knocked it out. I saw it, and I'm like, that's interesting. And then I never saw this color of a Poochyena again until about 3 years later when I saw it again and caught it, and then used it, and it was garbage, and I boxed it pretty quick because Poochyena is not a great Pokemon. However, yeah, it was pretty cool to know that. I didn't know what shinies were, so I didn't know what the significance was. I just thought they had different color variations in this game. Then I never saw another one again. It's kind of confusing, but I never let it really like deflect me from playing the game or nothing. But it's quite funny to me how like I saw this, like the first encounter I ever had with the Poochyena was a shiny one. However, let's get him off the screen. And like I said, not my best team I could ever put together, but the first team I did. The next Pokemon picked up was Wingull, which evolves into Pelipper. It is a water flying type. Is it a great Pokemon? No. But it does satisfy some needs. You need a flying type Pokemon, you need a water Pokemon. The first gym is rock type. You do have Water Gun with Wingull, so it does help you a lot of the way through the game. Does it age well? Does it progress well? No, it does not. But it is a Pokemon that I use, and I use it in a lot of playthroughs. I'm not going to say just this one, because I just value getting my team early, so he's an early water/flying Pokemon that I could get. So I always prioritize getting him. However, like I said, it's not a great Pokemon. I would definitely choose different Pokemon if I were to create a best team. But it was a Pokemon that I definitely used in my first playthrough. And then this is another Pokemon I got early. So you can get Ralts at a very low catch rate, a very low, like a wild encounter rate of I think it's 5. But you can get a Ralts, and you can level it up and get Gardevoir. Now this is the shiny version. Just keep that in mind. I like the shiny for Gardevoir. I think it looks pretty cool. As are my two of my favorite colors mixed, like orange and blue, are pretty cool colors. If you didn't notice, a lot of my stuff is orange and blue in my channel, so keep that in mind. But Gardevoir is a solid Pokemon. It does have a downside of being a slow level up rate. That's why I think it's the best Psychic type, but there's a lot of argument why it isn't. Like, for example, you take so many more experience to level up compared to like an Alakazam. However, Gardevoir is a Gen 3 Pokemon, so I had to use it. So that is what I chose for my Psychic type Pokemon. And you can, like I said, you can get it so early, it makes no sense not to do it. The next Pokemon we picked up is Hariyama. Hariyama is a Pokemon that is a pure fighting type. And I understand the flaw in the team. I get it. I have 2 fighting types already. And there's a Pokemon I didn't mention, Breloom, which would have been a great grass type fighting that you could have added as well. But again, if I had that, I'd really be balanced on the fighting part, and I'd have some really bad weaknesses to Psychic and a couple other things as well. But Hariyama is a solid Pokemon. I think the fighting type Pokemon get a bad rap, But in this game, they get some great things. I can't wait to start Generation 3 so I can showcase some of these Pokemon. But the second gym, when you beat the second gym, I think it's Brawly. Brawly gives you the move Bulk Up. Bulk Up ups your attack stack by a stage. And so it gives the fighting type Pokemon a really, really good option to set up and sweep whenever you're doing a playthrough. So that's just something, again, for balance purposes, I shouldn't have had this. I should have had something else. But in my first playthrough, I chose that Pokemon because it was pretty cool. And then the next Pokemon I chose, which is a Pokemon I definitely wouldn't choose nowadays, is Aggron. It starts out as Aggron. Aggron is a Pokemon that is I think it's Steel Ground. I think it's what it is, or I think it's Steel Ground. I'll stick with Steel Ground. I'll double down on that. But this Pokemon does not have a lot of good things going for it. It has a slow level up rate. It has unique typing. Its defense is high, but you have a lot of downsides to this Pokemon when you play through. It just seems like it's always like behind the 8-ball. Gardevoir, I think, gets overpowered to a point where it kind of compensates for its lack of levels when it comes to the rest of the team. Aggron, it's not. It's not a Pokemon I would pick nowadays. It's a cool design, but it's just not one that I think I would pick now. It doesn't fit what I would contribute as a good team building Pokemon. And then the final Pokemon that we got before I came across the Legendary was Manectric. Manectric is a electric type Pokemon. It's really just there to counter flying in water Pokemon. We don't have a grass type here, so it's to counter some typing, and there's definitely some benefit to this Pokemon. You get a good point in the game. So if by this point, Manectric, I got that. You get that before the 4th gym, before Watson, and so you'd have your whole team at this point. You'd have all of it. That's my way of building teams early in my Pokemon history, I should say, or Pokemon experience. Is I like to get my team accumulated and assembled as early as possible, so that I can just build the team and not have to worry about catching a Pokemon and raising it up later. That being said, before we go to Elite 4, you get access to Rayquaza, however you pronounce it. And Rayquaza is such a good Pokemon. Now, this is the problem, like I said earlier, Generation 3, there's no good gifts. This is the best gift I could find of Rayquaza. By himself. It's what's called a PNG. There's no background, and so it can sit there and float, and it's outlined really well. Like all the other ones here that are gifts are outlined the same way. There wasn't one of Hariyama. There was not one. I couldn't find one. So there's a lot of bad gifts for this generation. I don't know what happened with it, but it is what it is. This Pokemon eventually replaced Aggron when I went into the Elite 4. That's my team. It's a very solid team across the board. There is some imbalance, and there's definitely Pokemon I'd pick definitely instead of the ones I have listed here. If I were to play through today, if you said, hey, JD, go play Pokemon Emerald and build the best team possible, definitely wouldn't have this team assembled. I'd have something completely different, which will be another topic for another day. So let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Did you like this team? Who's your favorite Pokemon Generation 3? Let me know all that stuff in the comment section. It helps YouTube algorithm. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and comment down below. And then Friday, we have a video coming out, and the video is of Scyther. Generation 1, we're almost done with all the bug types in Generation 1, to figure out who the best bug type is, and this week is Scyther. It's a very unique Pokemon, very interesting playthrough. Make sure you check it out. Have a good one. I'll see you guys on Friday.